Hello, this is Samsai again, and welcome back to Caves of Cod. It's been a while since I last played this, for the reasons I mentioned last time I happened to try this, which was that the game was getting updated so regularly that my saves kept getting outdated quite quickly. However, I have now remedied this by actually getting a copy of the game from GOG, so that allows me to download a copy of the game and keep it at a fixed version until I wish to move on personally. But we're playing the 2.0.6765.18229 beta. So this is a newer version, quite a bit newer version, I think, as the previous version I played. And last time I played this, they started introducing some of the new mechanics into this. And I have now spent a little bit of time actually learning how those mechanics actually work a little bit, and I've started to once again get a little bit better at this game. So, without further ado, let's start a new game and let's see if we can actually get somewhere. So I could create a new character or roll a random. Rolling a random usually doesn't end too well. I have a couple of character builds that I have sort of tested and that I like. The Radiated Marauder I have yet to actually make work that well, but I have my fairly basic Praetorian, Truekin, Praetorian fighter person. But I think we're going to go with something a little bit different, something that I actually quite like. I have this Isakari Nomad here that I made, and this is basically a character, a mutant nomad, sort of focused on being fairly good at wielding both ranged weapons and swords and such. And I actually, currently, if I go back to my high scores here, my most highest level character, the one that I got furthest with, and then I died because I did stupid things, was a level 16 Nomad. And this one is my second best, and this was a Praetorian. So, yeah, I think that the Nomad loadout works quite well. So let's start with that, and if I happen to fail quickly, then I might try some other stuff like the Merchant, which I've also dabbled with a little bit. But let's fire this up, and here you can see all my stats. So it's fairly agility focused. So that would be I think short blades and ranged weapons, and a decent amount of toughness and ego, which is something that I have kind of neglected in my previous characters, because I have not really thought that it was that important. But turns out to get good, decent prices out of your shopping, you actually do want to have a little bit of ego. As for mutations, we have heightened hearing, multiple legs, night vision, photosynthetic skin, thick fur, and kindle. Basically, this is kind of supposed to be a build that is a kind of a desert survivalist. And stuff like the photosynthetic skin, thick fur, that kind of works towards that. The multiple legs I really like, because it allows us to move faster, which is quite important for survival, and it also allows us to carry more stuff. Night vision is simply so that I won't have to carry a torch, because I find torches to be quite annoying, and I'd rather have two blades, one in both hand, or a shield. In this case, we're probably not going to go with a shield, but having something else in that other hand is useful. So, let us start. And this is one of the new features. There is a new starting location system, which allows you to spawn in another village instead of a... give me a second. Okay, I'm back, and I had a bit of a distraction there, so I had to stop for a second. But yeah, as I was saying, basically these are just different randomly generated villages that give you stuff you can learn various skills from these guys. So for example, the Desert Canyon village teaches wayfaring, a random village in the salt dunes that gives you an Isakari banner and teaches the fasting ways. And they have different quests as well, so if you're like a little bit too used to the Yopa route, and you know, you every single time you play in Yopa you do the same things again and again, this is a different, like it's a nice way of like varying it up a little bit, because those quests are randomly generated and stuff like that. Ultimately, I think they lead to the same storyline though. But we're going to start with Yopa because it's like the most stable way of starting, and stable as in most reliable. I'm going to be Samsai, of course. And let's get the mouse off the screen because we don't really need it. This is a very keyboard-oriented game. So, yeah. Once again, we're back in COD. And as always, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all of the quests from here. So let's talk with our friend Mehmet here. And I'm in search of work. And yes, there are critters eating the water wine. And, you know, we need to go to Red Rock and figure out what the hell we're supposed to be doing there. I will accept this quest. And now, because I am a good friend of the Yopans, I am going to steal everything they have, including their torches, their short bows, and their water skins. You know, just the kind of stuff that a friend of your village would do. I mean, I'm going to make very good use of all of this. That weird artifact is going to be useful as well, regardless of what it actually is. But yeah, as a Nomad, what we get is a Harvestry skill, which has been revamped since I last played. And we get the Weathered perk in Endurance, which means that we take less damage from heating and cooling effects. So I'm unsure if that's going to make much of a difference, because I haven't really seen that many things that cause heating and cooling effects, but if we happen to run into that, that's good. As for wayfaring, we know how to make a camp. We have the Mind's Eye perk, so we should be able to not get lost as much, and we have Wilderness Lore salt pans. We're not going to get there just yet, because the salt pans are a little bit dangerous, but we're going to get there eventually, because it is a good way of getting experience, and since we have the Wilderness Lore, it allows us to potentially find interesting encounters like Nomad caravans and ruins and all of that stuff. We don't have any other skills, but let me actually check what item I have. I have the Desert Crease, which is a short blade. So I probably will go with the short blade route, and I don't need the lit torch. So what I can actually do is I can dual wield my Desert Crease so that I have two of them. Because I don't have the perk for offhand attacks, I'm not going to be able to necessarily do much with it, but if we get the occasional hit, it's fine. We have goggles on our face, which I think that just, yeah, that's protection against visual flash effects. So if someone decides to throw a flashbang, then I will be slightly better off, and it gives me a reputation with the insects. Our recycling suit is an interesting one. It gathers our sweat and stuff like that and filters it down into fresh water. So basically this is just a way for us to get extra water, so it kind of just like offsets our thirst a little bit. And it also provides a 3 armor without any penalty to EV, which means that it's quite good. I'm not going to examine the weird artifact yet, because I don't want to break it. But yeah, basically, beyond that, a fairly normal setup, and yeah, I'm going to steal all of that. There's nothing in there. Okay, and then let's sell all the excess to our friend Tam here. So, goodbye Iron Dagger. The short bow I think I'll keep, because it might be useful, and I have the agility to actually make it work. And I'm going to sell the bent metal sheet and the cracked lens and all of my torches, because we don't need those, we actually can see in the darkness. There's also a studded leather armor, which is just like blatantly worse than what I have. So I'll just sell all of that. Is there anything... oh, no. Is there anything here that I might want? I would like a desert rifle, but we can't afford it yet. However, we're probably going to go that route, because the desert rifle is a fairly good weapon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to buy all of the lead slugs from here, because we may need those later, and if we can find a wild desert rifle somewhere, if we can run into some Isakari riflers, for example, then that is basically a guaranteed rifle, and we can then supply it with our own ammunition. Alright, and that's that. Now let's have a look at the statue here. The Shrine to Sulapur, wife to Shupa. The shrine depicts a significant event from the ancient Sultan Sulapur. In 423, Sulapur won a decisive victory against the combined forces of Alarkpad neighborhood, yes, at the bloody battle of Miyazomu Grotto. As a result of the battle, Miyazomu Grotto was so evaporated of all moisture that it was surnamed Salt-Spangled Wastes. Okay, and now we have learned of the location, and we can go and visit it. And if we do, we get a little bit of experience for that. That's always that's something I tend to do, because free experience in the early game is quite important. And talking about free experience in the early game, Argive. So yes, he's talking about all kinds of nonsense. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fetch a knickknack for him. Yes, I will return with your knickknack. He's basically just telling us that there are caves, and yes, there are. And here is your knickknack. I don't know what it is, but that's not important. Anything will do. And I will have to find another one. Okay, now the question is, where do we go from here? So, we could go to the Rust Wells. Let me actually see where the... Okay, so Alarkopad is quite far. So we're probably not going to get there until we start heading off to Gritgate. So we're basically going to be stuck here in the valley of the salt marshes. Or, well, it's not really a valley, it's more like a... I mean, this is all salt dunes, so this is basically just a massive... this is Mograhi, the Great Salt Desert here. And this is basically just a fairly... Well, it's more habitable part of the edge of the... or at the edge of the salt desert. And then there are some hills and canyons. But yeah, I think what we're going to probably do is we're going to start heading towards the Rust Wells. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be a little bit more careful about this. So instead of just rushing to the Rust Wells like I've done in the past, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by scouting out the surrounding areas of the salt marsh. That way we can possibly get a couple of pieces of experience that might be quite useful. And I'm just going to... There's apparently asphalt here in the grass, and that's quite annoying. Yeah, there's a lot of asphalt here, which means that exploring this is super slow. Oh, that's a croc. Okay, I think I can take on a croc at full health, so let's do it. Okay, he's wounded, badly wounded, and he's dead. That's a 75 experience gain right there, and we only need to kill like a couple of these to actually get our level up. Slimy giant amoeba stops bleeding. Apparently there's a slimy giant amoeba somewhere. But exploring these parts is actually sometimes quite useful, because there is the very real possibility of running into some corpses or something similar, or just crocs. Crocs are fine too, because that is a fairly good XP dump. Oh, well, there was an amoeba, but that is also good experience. The problem with the salt marshes is largely that freaking so difficult to actually move here. Apparently there's like sugary, slimy water here. Also, since we actually have... No, this is just prime stock that has been slimed on. But I was about to talk about the harvestry skill. So if we go to my abilities, the harvest skill is no longer an active skill that you activate. It is actually a passive skill that you can toggle on and off. And unlike previously, it doesn't have a cooldown, so you can just, like, if you happen to run into a plant that you can harvest, you automatically harvest it when you run across it. So, for example, if we happen to run into any, like, water vine or star apple trees or something in here, we're actually going to get the benefit of harvesting it without having to actively like notice and harvest the plants ourselves. Okay, and the amoeba is dead. I'll just make sure that I'll scout all of this. And the scouting is actually useful in other ways too. Like, not only is it basically free experience that you would otherwise pass up, but it means that if we happen to run in, or if we get lost, we can find this area and spot it a little bit more easily. Actually, nope, you're lost. Well, this is a good way to, like, demonstrate it. Also, we can kill a croc. So, a little bit closer than I wanted it to, but we have gained a level. And we could actually start considering what we want to do with our character. So, since we have 2 short blades, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the short blade expertise from here. I actually like short blades a lot, simply because many of these effects, like the bloodletter and the jab, are both like passive abilities. So the if you go to the long blade section, many of these, like the lunge and the swipe, and even the stances, the defensive stance and the offensive or the aggressive stance, those are all active effects. So the short blade expertise kind of allows you to fight with blades without, you know, caring too much about special abilities, so you can just keep running into enemies. Of course, there is the negative fact that... Oh, there we go. That short blades are just weaker in general, like they do not have as much armor penetration, and they don't do nearly as much damage. For example, now these desert crees that I have, they do 1d3 of damage with armor penetration of 4. A fairly basic longsword will do like armor penetration, I think 5, and 1d4 or d5 of damage. Okay, let's start moving into the canyons. Because we haven't so far found too much in the way of loot, but the desert canyons, on the other hand, have a lot of it. And this is something that I had not paid attention to that much. That's another artifact. We're going to have to, like, kind of consider it. Okay, it's 1 pound, so I think that is just a grenade or an injector. Yeah, this is something that I did not consider when I last played this. Like, these the world areas are actually useful because we can kill stuff like these snapjaws, and we don't have to really care about this because these guys are super easy to kill. Only like quite weak characters have trouble killing these guys, and these are basically just a decent amount of experience for very little like actual risk. And that is exactly what we need in the early game. We need to basically be able to acquire some loot. I mean, this is fairly low-level loot, but we can still sell it. And anything is better than nothing. So let's... yep, there's another... Yep, that's bear jerky and a water skin. Both of those are useful. And you had just a bronze dagger, but it's fine because killing you is still 10 XP. And it's also a kind of a good way to gauge how much ability you have, like on your character, to deal with the rust wells, for example. And I'm kind of waiting for my character to actually get hungry, because I would like to talk about the new food system. Well, it's not really new at this point. This was introduced when I last played this game. But, oh, there we go. Now we're actually hungry, which means it's quite nice. So, previously, when I played this, like when I made most of my videos on this game, what ended up happening was I would carry a whole lot of food with me, and then this, like, I would have wine wafer here and stuff like that, and that would just get consumed over time. I think you can still eat this if you want to. However, what you can also do is you can just add a campfire, or you can make a camp if you want to. You can whip up a meal. So we're going to gather a lead sniff of normality gas, an eminent boar tooth, and a sprinkle of reed equimax hair, and toss that into a pot, stir and eat, and now you're stated. So, like, moving around isn't as big of a deal or as difficult as it was previously, simply due to the fact, also we do not have any items on our feet, so we can have some crocossins for extra point of AC, or armor value in this game. But yeah, I won't be dying of, like, hunger as easily as I had previously when I played this. Because back then it was just like, carry a whole lot of food with you, and if you ran out of food, go back to town, get some more, basically. But now, I don't really have to worry about it that much. I can just keep whipping up meals. And the actual food items, like the wine wafer and all that other stuff, is used to make meals better, or eat when, you know, you're in a very difficult circumstance, like you cannot make a camp and you need to eat something. But most of the time, if you can clear up an area of enemies, you can basically just make a camp and you don't have to worry about it. And let's keep moving towards the rust wells here. Okay, we see a boar. Okay, it is up there, north of us. We can totally kill a boar, plus we do need this experience. As long as we keep our eyes on our health or our, well, health bar, health points meter, we should be just fine. Of course, I will basically not go into a fight unless I have to without being at full HP. That is a good rule to follow in all roguelikes if you have a mechanic of healing up your damage. Also, that is a horned chameleon. It is considered an average enemy, but I am a little bit cautious of it because it does cause bleeding. I sadly, well, I have my short bow, and I am considering using it against this. So I'll just sprint ahead, and, well, I need to reload my silly bow, and let's start actually firing some shots. Okay, well, that didn't go so well. There isn't really anything else I can do. I could try to kindle, but I don't think it's going to catch fire. So let's just start attacking with my weapons. I think I should have plenty of health to actually fight this and win. Yep, there we go. But yeah, I am taking bleeding damage. Also, these salamanders are in league with the chameleon, because they're both lizards, I think. But we have healed up. We are at 35 HP already, and we can have a look-see at our character sheet. So currently I have 2 mutation points and an attribute point. Now, the attribute I probably want to put towards, I mean, ego would be decent, and willpower 2. I'm not so sure about how much intelligence I'm going to be using. I might sort of dabble in tinkering, but so far I haven't really managed to make it that amazing. I guess like extra agility would always be nice, and toughness you can never go wrong with. So you know what, I'm going to go early toughness to keep this character alive a little bit longer. And as for the mutation points, I'm probably not going to save up for a new one, because we already have a decent selection here. And heightened hearing is actually pretty good, so I'm going to put an extra point into that. So this allows me to detect the presence of enemies within a radius of 7, and I also have an increased chance to actually identify what is causing the ruckus. Multiple legs, we increase, these are basically just kind of dull increases, like that it doesn't do anything interesting, but it's very useful nonetheless. Like the move from 8 move speed to 13 is quite significant, and an extra percentile of carry capacity is also good, because that's extra loot we can carry back home. Now I have 114 SP, and I think what I might go for is first aid, because we don't have a rifle yet. So I don't think it's super necessary to go into that yet. So I wonder if the dual wield would go well with our... I mean, it's so expensive though. But we might consider it, because some of this stuff is actually pretty nice. But what I'm going to get is the first aid. The stodge wounds is not that important, but the next skill, heal, is very important. We're going to be using that. And that leaves us with basically no points to spend on anything else, so we can just run around and see if there is anything else. There isn't. So I'm going to just quickly go through those. And now, let's see if we can get some like more proper loot from here. This seems to be quite crowded. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna like hide here for a bit and let the enemies come to me. These guys, these baboons, they are not going to really necessarily hit me with those rocks. I'm not going to be that bothered to like actually actively fight them unless they get close, like that one did. And instead I'm going to be more focused on killing the snapjaws, because the snapjaws do actually carry some stuff. And I think the snapjaws sometimes even fight the baboons. I think it's mainly when they miss and accidentally throw a rock at a snapjaw. But as you can see here, I don't actually have line of sight of that one snapjaw right here. However, because I have heightened hearing, I can actually like detect the location of that one. And I can even identify some of these guys to be like a warrior or something. Now we need to be a little bit careful because we're starting to be swarmed here. I want that warrior down. Okay, it seems to be... yeah, we cannot do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run off. And it seems that there's just more baboons off in this direction, which means that we might need to just leave the area and come back when we are properly, yeah, we are taking like, and that's tortoise. This might actually end badly here, because I just spent my sprint too. I do have the extra speed from multiple legs, so I do have that. But it seems to be like there's a whole lot of wall here. That's something that I don't like. I'm blocked by a slab and all of that. Okay, am I now in the clear? Well, kind of in the clear. Nobody seems to be really following me. There is a... okay, that's a snapjaw. I think I can take on a single snapjaw, but if it's more than that, I might have an issue here. Let's just hold on and stay put here and try to just stay alive. We have a fairly defensible position where we have our backs against the wall here a little bit. So if anything bad like Salt Hopper attacks us, we cannot really run. But this is a good way for us to, well, we have already regained our sprint, so that's good. And we have regained all of our hit points as well. So let's just gather all of the loot. particularly the iron stuff. I'm going to get everything because I have that slight bit of extra ego that allows me to get those better prices. Well, normal prices, because I don't actually have any extra like bonuses to my ego or my bartering. But it's still a decent increase, and I'm going to get one hit in with a with an arrow, and that takes care of him. Missed that one, but it's fine. And that guy was actually, yeah, that's the two-handed sword is actually quite scary. If they get a very good hit on that, it does like absolutely go through my health right now, because we only have 36 max HP, which is not bad. I've played with characters that had much less, but still. Also, my armor isn't that amazing. Like 3 armor is alright. The dodge value is quite good. Also, let's just quickly make ourselves a... Oh, there we go. We actually got a random effect, so +1 to hit for the rest of the day. I think the rest of the day means that basically we're at the shallows. The time is shallows. So I think we are like reaching... Is this early morning or is this late night? I'm not sure. I have some trouble remembering how the times work in this, because they're not too clear about times. I'll take off this and the wreath, and apparently there's a Snapjaw Hunter in there somewhere. So I'm gonna let him come to me, and I can hear where he goes, and that allows me to get a hit in. Engraved bronze dagger. So once again a scene from Mixer Maps. Throughout 19, Mixer Maps pillaged all of Zazomrod neighborhood, particularly rejoicing in the lamentations of insects and vines. Well, that's just extra information. We can take it because it has that extra bit of engraving on it, which makes it a little bit more worthwhile. A sturdy desert trees. Yes, I would like to take that. And the boarskin gloves. I don't think I have anything in my hands right now. So I'll take all of that. Take the two-hander, take the short sword. The dagger can just stay. I don't think I'm going to take any of those clothes. Yeah, we're actually over capacity already. And I think I'm going to actually get rid of that by dropping the two-handers. They're decent price, but if I can get some like lighter weight iron items. There's another engraving. At the Battle of Damu, Oram fought as a mercenary sultan to subjugate fish. She wielded a radiant hammer with such artistry that it became forever known as Radiant Grace, the woe of fish. And I'm going to unload that to get an extra arrow. Let's not let that kudzu stay here, because I'm otherwise going to lose some items to it. Okay, there was a copper nugget there, which is good. There is a warlord up there. Okay, let's see if my accuracy can do something here. Okay, 1 hit, 2 hits. And let's just melee him to death. There we go. Iron Mace rusted. I think he's been fighting some kudzu, but that means that that's actually kind of worthless. I don't think they accept a rusted item at like a decent price. Luckily I can get a battle axe here. That will definitely suit my needs a little bit better. Lead slugs, always take those. A star apple, sure, why not. And sadly the chainmail is kinda heavy, but I think it's also worth it. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop those. Also, do I have an extra pair of goggles? Yes, I do, in fact. Now I need to get rid of 20. Dropped leather armor and the aprons. And now we're back to capacity. We could also start picking up wire. If I can find decent bundle here, I mean, any amount is good actually. Like, it doesn't matter if it's like a whole lot or less. It's all good because we're going to need that wire eventually. Because Archive is going to ask us to get some. I don't see a whole lot right now. Okay, let's go back and sell our loot back to Tam. Yes, Tam. I was a little bit unsure, but yes, it is Tam in fact. Okay, you can have the Vinewood sap mask and the chainmail. Sure, the goggles as well, and the aprons. And okay, I should really stop taking the aprons. They are not worthwhile, even when they're sturdy. The weird artifact we're going to take back to Archive. And you can have the leather moccasins and the witchwood wreath. We don't need the torches, and then we can just unload all of this on you. I might actually keep the sword. No, actually, the short sword does exactly the same as a desert crease, so it doesn't even matter. Basically, we are going to have to wait for steel items to actually update our equipment back to a more reasonable level. And I also have a buckler here, and let's see if we unload all of my trade goods and also the cider, can I actually get something from you? I can actually afford a desert rifle with this, and there doesn't seem to be anything like super important in the melee weapons. The only good thing there is the steel battle axe, and I don't use axes. So I think I'm going to get the desert rifle with this, and I already have a couple of lead slugs to use with it, and he's still going to have to give me a little bit of extra water for my efforts. So let's equip this. I'm going to now basically have to take the rifle skill, because I don't want to waste these slugs, and I think if I take the bow skill, bows and rifles, I'm just going to close some of this stuff so that it's a little bit easier to manage. So if I take the bow and rifle first skill, which is the steady hands, for the purpose of determining your accuracy with bows and rifles, your agility is treated as if it was 4 points higher, which is quite good. Because my agility is already high. Like, it's not as high as it could be, but 20 is still a decent amount. And yeah, basically this allows me to get an agility that is equal to 24, and that allows me to waste much less in the way of ammo. And ammo in this world is precious indeed. At least until we get to the grid gates and actually get inside. So here I have a knick-knack. And then we need to go and get the wire. And the copper wire we can just get at the rust wells, as we have done in the past. So let's just reload my rifle while I'm here. Okay, let's start clearing the rest of these rust wells here. Okay, that's just a baboon. Nope, it's a seed-spitting vine. And there is apparently a second one. Let's just charge at this one, and then take some cover. Okay, that's another spitter. I think that might be a third spitter, in fact. What of? I might actually see if these vines actually kill any other creatures, or attack other creatures, because there seems to be a lot of these guys, and I kind of hate fighting them. They don't do that much damage to me, but they kind of still cause enough damage to be annoying. Let's kill the kudzu before it does anything bad for us. The kudzu is it's like a plant that rusts your equipment. which is bad because unless you know how to repair an item, and we don't because we don't have the necessary tinker skill, it means that the item is completely unusable until you get it repaired. And that means if you don't have the skill, you need to get fixed foam on it, and fixed foam is rare and also valuable. Okay, but let's start getting this. So now we're at 100 feet of wire. And apparently the goat is fighting the kudzu, which is fine by me. I don't want to deal with the kudzu either. And if the goat wants to take care of it, fine by me. Okay, was there any other piece of wire anywhere? Might be that we need to start like heading down into the rust wells, but I will do that a little bit later. First I want to clear all of these outdoor areas. Bronze dagger. Sadly that's not really valuable enough for me to care. And then there are some goats fighting snapjaws. Okay, that takes care of those two. I'll take the studded leather. And I'll take the sap mask. I think the sap mask at least gives an okay price. 150 feet of wire. So we're starting to get there. We can get another lucky 50. No, that's a 3. Okay, we're also hungry, so let's eat. Let's whip up just a random meal and eat it. As you can see, like, I'm not worried about my food anymore, and I think this is an improvement. Because last time, like, when I played this, it was like worrying about food constantly and then making bad decisions because you ran out. Okay, there's a brute here. Should be easy enough to get rid of you. A quilted shawl, I'll take it. I think the shawl goes on your body, which means that we don't want to use it. Actually, let me make sure, because I'm not 100% sure what I don't know what a shawl is. Oh, it is worn on the back, which is... well, it's actually bad because it's -1 EV. And I would like to keep that evasion since I don't have the armor. Another weird artifact, which I will gladly take. But I think we may have actually exhausted all the wire outside, so we may need to dip into the rust well itself to find the rest. Yeah, let's just travel back to the... need to kill the jilted lover, which has been placed in an awkward spot here. But yeah, let's actually dip into the rust well, see what we can find. All of these guys should be fairly easy. That is a hunter, I think. Yes, it is. So make sure that he is quite dead. We're getting attacked by another hunter. These should be basically just snapjaws, and as long as I keep my cool and only attack targets that I know I can kill, and I don't rush into combat, it should be perfectly fine. Take the first one, leave the apron. And that's a nice water skin, 53 grams of fresh water, so that's like finding basically someone's life savings right there. I mean, at least as far as like a snapjaw is concerned. Okay, you know what? You are starting to be a problem, and I will start taking pot shots at you. Okay. There is a huge group of them in the other room there. And I am going to want to stay back a little bit because I am still at low health. Boarskin gloves give a decent price at the store. I do want to like peel up all of this damage before I proceed though. Even though the Snapjaws aren't that great at fighting, they are dangerous enough as a pack. And early characters do easily die in this dungeon if you are not careful, because it's a kind of a deceptive dungeon in that, I mean, you can kill off these like single Snapjaws like super easily. Then, you know, a decent pack of them comes along and all of a sudden you're surrounded and can't really go anywhere. Let's see. I have never actually... I don't think I've ever lit anything on fire with Kindle, but we'll try it regardless. So now these guys will have to walk through that. And I think there's enough of them in this kind of a funnel here. I mean, it is a tunnel, but I'm calling it a funnel because that's exactly what it does. Maybe these guys will have some penalty from walking through that fire. Probably not, because all of them died immediately. I'll take all of your iron longswords and your witchwood wreath, and I'll also unload that so that I can get an extra arrow. I'm gonna leave the rest. But this is a very good way to, like, and this is probably like the easiest dungeon there is in the game, the Rust Wells. Because I think the rest are kind of nasty. Also, we don't have anything on our head. The Nullworm skull would fetch a decent price, but I'm going to wear it on my head for that extra 1 point in armor. Freaking Kudzu. It's really annoying when they put it like, well, when they as in the RNG puts it like in a corner or in a corridor like that, because it's really difficult to avoid them. I suppose that's the idea. Oh, growth. There's some pyrokinesis working here. Apparently there might be like not sure what. Yeah, there is a Grovufugo, the stalwart snapjaw bearbaiter. So you're a swarm alpha and swarmer, and okay, so you have a studded leather armor, wide-brimmed hats, bites, iron longsword, and iron longsword. So you have 2 iron longswords. You know what? I will actually kill you. It might just take a little bit of time. And it's flinching out of the way of my projectiles, but I think I might be able to take it if I'm careful. Okay, it's turning out to be a case of probably not able to. Okay, now they have friends. And I need to reload my gun. I'll try to take some pot shots here at him, but I'm like, he's flinching away, I'm missing and all of that wonderful stuff a lot here. So, and that's pyrokinesis. I do want to kill him because he's worth so much experience. Okay, now the Snapjaws hate me, but newly sentient beings do like me, and urchins as well. And you, my dear friend, you're going to die as well. And I didn't even get like a level up for that. But it's fine, because we killed our first named character. And that means we're moving up in the world. At least we're becoming more infamous. But that did require a little bit of effort and probably more ammo than I would have wanted to spend. But ammo is to be spent, ultimately. And that was not the worst way of spending it. I could have missed a lot more, and I don't think I could have actually like beaten it to death with my Desert Crease. Like, it's not that great. Okay, as for... okay. The Nullworm Skull, it's a decent one. And I think it gives you like an extra bonus in something. It gives you an ego bonus, so yeah, basically I do want to keep that, because ego is that worthwhile. I actually have one extra mutation point that I could spend on my legs. Never skip your leg day, I say as I have missed all leg days. But at least my video game characters have decent legs. Slender Club, I think that means it weighs less than normal, but it's still not worth carrying, because it's a club. It's a piece of wood, ultimately. It's a fancy stick. So I don't really care that much. Alright, now we've leveled up. And your battle axes, and you know what, I'll take your short bows as well. They can be sold. And the beaded bracelets and all of that stuff belongs to me now. Was there anything else? Yes, there was. An iron short sword. Another beaded bracelet. And another short sword. Let's just heal up the rest of those hit points, because sometimes it does come down to a single hit point, which means that you should always have all of the hit points. 1 foot of wire. I could go deeper, or I could try another dungeon. Let's go deeper. I don't want to travel, and who knows, maybe we might just find enough wire. Oh, never mind, that's all of it. Okay, now we have the 200 feet of wire that we need for this quest, so let's just mop up the rest of this level, and then we're going to head back up. Because we are basically at capacity already as far as loot is concerned. Also, here's a tip. If you want to head to a destination, you don't want to explore, keep in mind what routes you've taken in the past, like what tiles you've moved to, because sometimes the most direct route is not the easiest, particularly if you get lost. And here I'm lost, but I instantly recognize where I am, and I stop being lost. It's useful. So let us sell all of this good stuff. Yeah, the Nullworm Skull 7 drams of water a pop. And the torches, because we don't need those, and then we can sell this laundry list of weapons, including short bows, because the short bows actually sell for a decent price considering how like common they are. And now we have 140 drams of goods that we need to exchange for something, because I don't want to carry 142 drams of water around. I could have a floating glow sphere, but I don't need it. Floating glow spheres, super useful if you don't have night vision, but we have night vision, we don't need it. I'm not, in fact, even going to sell my my trade goods, because those are actually, they weigh less than the amount of water would weigh, basically. So there is a little bit of like juggling here to figure this stuff out. What I might do is, these cost 57, so these are pretty much just guaranteed to be grenades. Cobalt tube and a muddy tube. One of these might be, I think the colors might be randomized as well. So I'm not sure if one of these is like a salve injector. but like figuring that out would probably be a good idea. However, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna basically exchange all of this stuff that I'm giving for a couple of weird artifacts that are probably going to be grenades. I'm hoping that those are good grenades that I can maybe use. Because right now the store stock hasn't been, or the store hasn't been restocked. Yeah, let's hope that I don't break these. Okay, that's a high explosive, that's very good. And these are the defoliant grenades. Basically, these, just as far as I understand it, they kill plants. They don't do much else. Also, we need to take all of this to archive, like, immediately, because it's weighing us down. I'll keep the defoliant grenades, but I'm probably not going to use them much, and if I don't use them, like, soon-ish, I will probably just end up selling them or scrapping them or something. Yes, wire, beautiful wire, yada yada yada. I will return, and now I have a tool I always seem to forget to use, a Yoppa recoiler. Now, okay, it's working, we have the weird wire, and there is some kind of a repeating transmission that we need to carry over to the Barathromites at Gritgate. And I don't require any information, I can just do this, and I'll take this. I'll take the droid scrambler and the stamped data disk, which contains the signal, so that the Barathromites can figure out what that signal could possibly be. And I'm a little bit hungry, and I have managed to get some extra SP. So, next up on the menu is bow and rifle skill. Simply because it allows me to aim a little bit better. Then I have 70 to use on something else, and I think everything in this tree is 150. Well, there is jab, but I can't take that yet. I could probably save up on this, because I don't think there is anything really important that I need to pick up right now. Or actually, there is the wilderness lore. Now, the wilderness lore is actually useful. We're going to be staying in the region for now. So I'm going to pick up the Marshes wilderness lore, because that allows me to possibly find something interesting in the nearby area. Now, was there anything else that I really needed to get rid of? This is basically my backup weapon right now if I run out of ammo. The recoiler, I'll hang on to that because it allows me to basically teleport back to Yoppa if I am not being surrounded by enemies. Let's take care of the food problem right now. So basically, let's go and eat something, and these guys make apple mats. So I'm going to eat some of that. 11% extra regeneration, and I thirst at half rate. And you can basically eat the preferred food of the people in all towns by just walking to a stove. They don't mind.